So, in this video, I'm going to be looking at the effects of motor skill development in children. So, obviously, motor skill development, learning the fundamentals, is vital to children at a very young age because it will affect everything you can do in later life. If you don't start learning your sort of motor skills, you will struggle with sort of simple things such as walking and eating, because simple things like picking up a spoon, walking, that sort of thing is motor skill development. They're fundamental skills that everyone needs in everyday life, whether it's sport or just everyday life. They're considered sort of the building blocks to more advanced motor skills and specific sports skills. This was quoted by Burton and Miller in 1998. Those who learn their motor skills at an early age will they generally have sort of more success in sports because they can pick up the skills slightly quicker. If we take football as an example, kicking a ball, you tend to need to be able to balance because you're standing on one foot when you kick that ball. You're not sort of standing on 2 feet, you stand on one foot to kick the ball. So if you don't learn how to balance, you're going to struggle when you go to kick that ball because obviously you've got to stand on one foot when you kick that ball. If you can't stand on one foot, if you can't balance, then you're going to end up falling over and not being able to kick that ball. Obviously, let's take cricket, another one. If you can't catch a ball, then obviously you won't be any success in cricket. Even something like baseball as well. If you can't catch, then you won't have any success in any of those sports. So fundamental skills, they're not something that sort of simply develop as you get older. You don't sort of get to age 4 and all of a sudden you can kick a ball or you can walk or you can run. It's something that you develop over a period of time with practicing. Obviously, one of the first things that you do as a young child is start to crawl and then you start to walk. But you don't go from crawling one day to be able to walk and run the next day. You'll slowly stand up, you'll walk on 2 feet for a little bit and then you'll sort of fall over. And then the next day, you might be able to walk a little bit longer. And then the next day, a little bit more practice, you might be able to walk a little bit longer. But it's not something that develops overnight. So this was it's something that needs to be instructed in practice. Now, this was from Hayward and Gretschel in 2002. Developmental delay is sort of certain populations of children that may suffer with these skills. They may be constrained by what they can learn, so it will delay the development of these skills. These constraints could be a lack of access to practice sessions or various other things, but it delays the time in which they will learn these fundamental skills. So, to help develop these skills, children need to be put into programs that are focusing on developing these skills. Rather than going to a football practice, if they go to a session like a Playtime Adventure program, which has been developed to work on the fundamental skills, they're going to learn the skills quicker that they will need in soccer. Rather than go into a soccer practice session where they can be practicing kicking, they need to learn how to balance before they can kick that ball. So, national standards for physical education and physical activity guidelines for birth through to 5 years provide guidance to teachers about the content of their instruction for young children in physical education and other settings. So this means that teachers in schools are giving guidance on what children should be learning at sort of through those years between birth and 5 years old, so that in their physical education lessons, rather than just playing games and learning stuff that they can't teach, they're teaching them stuff that they need. So they're teaching them how to run, they're teaching them how to balance, they're teaching them how to jump, they're teaching them how to hop, skip, catch, throw, all of those different skills that they're going to need later on. So a study was undertaken with 38 girls and 46 boys, aged between 4 and 5. They were studied to analyse the linear and non-linear development of fundamental skills. So out of these children, they were grouped into 2 groups, and they were set 2 weekly 45-minute lessons. Now, one group followed a structured program where it was working on the fundamental skills, and one group was just doing a physical lesson, no structure, nothing, not following any sort of guidelines. Now, over the sort of few weeks, they were assessing or looking at the girls' standing broad jump and the boys' running speeds. These were being studied, so they tested their speeds at the beginning, and then they would test them sort of at the end. The group that followed the specific programs, the ones that followed the structured program, their speeds and jumps increased. Now, the ones that sort of just turned up and just did some physical education, physical activity, theirs didn't increase over the time period. So obviously, looking back at that, the more you follow a structured program, the more they're going to pick up those skills and they're going to learn them quicker than those that just sort of turn up and just play little games and just sort of have a bit of fun. Obviously, you want children to enjoy it because you want them to enjoy sport and you want them to be able to come back, but they obviously need to learn those fundamental skills as well. So things like not having access to programs, stuff like that, can obviously contain those skills and delay how a child develops. So take, for example, someone in a slightly poorer area to someone who might be in a more affluent area. If there isn't a program running that allows the child to go and develop those fundamental skills, or simply a parent can't afford to put them on a program like that, that kid, when they come to sort of sports later on, they're already going to be 1 or 2 steps behind those kids, because if they, going back to football again, if they haven't learned how to balance, if they haven't been taught how to balance, whether it's through school or through the program or from parents, that when they come to kick that ball, that kid next to them that's already been through that program, they're going to be able to balance quicker, so they're going to have more of a chance of kicking that ball, whereas that child that hasn't been through that, they're going to be learning how to balance before they can even kick that ball. So obviously, in conclusion, if we look at it, a program that's set out to work on those specific skills, those fundamental skills that are important to everyone, they're going to help those children develop over a quicker period of time. Something simple as eating dinner. You need to lift your hand up, you need to hold your fork, that sort of thing, to be able to do that. That's a fundamental skill that every child needs to learn. Walking, for example, as well. If a child can't walk, then they're not going to be able to run. So if they haven't learned how to walk, then when it comes to running, they're not going to be able to run. So following a specific program where they're learning these skills will help them develop over a quicker period of time.